Welcome to Winning Hearts and Minds, Educational Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dion Jude. Today we're exploring a crucial but often overlooked nuance in our roles as educators and leaders. The fine line between prevention and promotion when it comes to the information we share with children and young people. This topic is especially important when we consider how easily well-intentioned conversations can inadvertently glamorize or even normalize risky behaviors. We'll reflect on guidance from the Department for Education, particularly the principles of information sharing, and we'll ground our discussion in real-life practice and the ethical responsibility we carry as trusted adults. Let me begin with a scenario that might feel familiar. A well-meaning teacher decides to have an impromptu discussion in their lesson about vaping. They show graphic images, tell an intense story, and highlight the chemicals involved. But the following week, students are talking about vaping more than ever, some even experimenting for the first time. What went wrong? This is where the distinction between informing to prevent and informing that inadvertently promotes becomes critical. As educators, we want to empower young people with knowledge. We want them to make informed decisions. But we also have to recognize that children don't always process information as adults do. Their brains are still developing, especially the prefrontal cortex, which governs impulse control and risk assessment. As psychologist David Elkins suggests, adolescents often experience an imaginary audience and a personal fable, believing they are unique and invincible. So when we share content about harm, some don't interpret it as a warning. They see it as a challenge or even a rite of passage. When I was an inexperienced head of year, I remember sharing information about an incident that happened outside of school, only to have 2 further copycat incidents the day after. This led me to reflect on my delivery, how much information to share about what had happened, and who to share it with. This brings us to the DFE's 7 golden rules for information sharing, particularly the principle that states, consider the safety and well-being of the individual. This isn't just about whether we share, but how and why. Yes, we need to raise awareness about issues like drugs, self-harm, sexual exploitation, and peer pressure. But how we package that awareness matters. Are we speaking from a place of empowerment and resilience building, or are we catastrophizing in a way that causes fear or fascination? There's a powerful concept in psychology called the boomerang effect. It occurs when a message intended to prevent behavior actually increases it. This can happen when the message is perceived as exaggerated, not credible, or too emotionally charged. And in our social media-driven world, where young people are bombarded with sensationalism, our words have to be carefully calibrated. So how do we get the balance right? I advocate using a framework grounded in protective behaviors, which is all about helping young people understand that they have the right to feel safe and that they can talk to someone if they don't. This approach focuses on personal agency and decision-making rather than shame or fear. I remember working with a young person who was at risk of being groomed online. Instead of launching into a warning filled with worst-case scenarios, we focused on building their digital literacy, encouraging critical thinking, and reinforcing their sense of self-worth. They didn't just know the risks, they understood their power to navigate them. It's the same when tackling topics like sexual consent or gang affiliation. We must avoid what educational theorist Paulo Freire described as banking education, where we deposit knowledge into passive minds. Instead, we should foster a dialogue, curiosity, and critical engagement. Here's a quote I often come back to. Children are great imitators, so give them something great to imitate. Anonymous. And I'll add, give them information that uplifts, informs, and protects, not content that inadvertently mystifies or glorifies danger. Here are some questions to consider. When you plan an assembly or lesson on sensitive topics, do you ask yourself, what impact might this have on a young person who's never thought about this before? Are we giving them tools or just giving them content? What language are we using, and how might that language be interpreted or misinterpreted? To wrap up, sharing information with young people is essential, but so is how we share it. Let's lead with compassion, evidence, and intention. Let's focus not just on preventing harm, but on promoting safety, resilience, and agency. Thank you for joining me on Winning Hearts and Minds. Let's keep the conversation going, and remember, it's not just about what we say, it's about how it lands. I would love to hear your thoughts about this topic.